Lahore Grammar School, Quetta, lesson by Faiza Shah for grade 7. Excuse me. Component is comprehension. Topic from the reader Time and Tide, Ballad of Tiki. Now, boys and girls, before we start, I want you to know that this is an actual picture of the raft that was used to travel from one point to another because of a man that we're going to talk about. But this is a real picture. It's a real picture of a real raft that was used in order to cross the Pacific Ocean. Introduction of the lesson. It's a modern story retold by a modern poet, Ian Serraillier, about a journey which was made to reenact possible journeys made on similar raft thousands of years earlier. Heyerdahl deliberately took out all the modern theories in order to prove his point. Now, there was this man named Heyerdahl. He wanted to prove the point that long time ago people used to travel in the rafts such as this one. This is also an actual picture of the actual raft that was used in the voyage that was then later kept in the museum of Oslo. So what actually happened was that this man believed that people actually traveled long distances in such canoes or in such rafts, but people didn't believe him. So he said, why not give it a try and actually travel in such a raft? So he made such a raft with the help of some people and went on a voyage. Now, it's a poem in the book The Reader that we are doing, and it can be related to the fact that our reader Time and Tide had almost all folk tales of the sea, giant sea creatures, gods, and magical voyage of sea with the element of time from several angles. Yes, we've talked about long time ago, about talking sea creatures, about gods, about several things. And they were all folk tales, they were all unreal, but now we're going to talk about a real live incident that actually happened in the modern world, where a raft was made and where people such as Heyerdahl himself and his friends, they started a voyage, traveled all the way. They wanted to travel all the way, covering the Pacific Ocean. So as we're talking, the story is both ancient and modern simultaneously. The reader Time and Tide teaches us that the time and tide wait for no man. The wreck comes like the storm, not when Heyerdahl chooses. Now, why we are saying that Heyerdahl never chooses the storm to come? Because he wanted to prove his point, but he was not sure if there will be a storm or if there will not be a storm, because he didn't use any modern gadget back then. And because of that, the man was seen helpless. He remains defenseless against this terrific force of the sea. You understand? So if we pick out the threads which pulls the book together, the description of the fury of the water reminds us of the Battle of the Sea, and then the Hiroshima Taro being thrown into the future by the sea, and that was not by choice. Similarly, Heyerdahl chooses to be thrown into the distant past, with the wireless being their only connection to the 20th century. What if we compare the crew with the Argonauts? What essential qualities come to your mind when you think of Argonauts, and when you think of, or when you're going to read about the crew that actually traveled in the raft? Let's see. Now, the character of the lesson are Thor Heyerdahl. He's the one who planned the game. Then there was Thorstein Rabbi. He was a wizard, you can say, in a wireless with earphones. He's the one who was taking care of whatever was happening. And then there was Nut. Nut was a brave person from Norway, and he's the one who saved them from the disaster that we're going to read about. Then Danielson of Sweden. He was a professor and a cook. He used to cook for them, and He was actually a professor. Herman Watzinger, he was a weather boss and a very tough man. Eric Hasselberg, all-rounder, and he plays mandolin too. And then Lorita, a pet Spanish-speaking green parrot. Moving on. So the actual incident talks about the Kon-Tiki expedition was a 1947 excuse me, journey by raft across the Pacific Ocean from South America to the Polynesian Islands, led by Norwegian explorer and writer Thor Heyerdahl. The raft was named Kon-Tiki after the Inca god, for whom Kon-Tiki was said to be an old name. Heyerdahl and a small team went to Peru, where, with the help of dockyard facilities provided by the Peruvian authorities, they constructed the raft out of balsa logs and other native material is an old style as recorded in illustrations. So they went back to the illustrations, they looked into the books, and they wanted to make the exact copy of what they used back 1,000 years ago. The trip began on April 28, 1947. Heyerdahl and 5 companions sailed the raft for 101. Right, as I was saying, with his 5 companions, they sailed the raft for 101 days over 6,900 kilometers across the Pacific Ocean before smashing into a reef at Roroya in the Tuamotus on August 7, 1947. The crew made successful landfall and all returned safely. Let's move on. Summary of the lesson. Now, Heyerdahl, however, was determined to prove that such a voyage was possible. As I told you before, that this man wanted to prove his point that such voyage were possible back then, but most people really they discouraged his voyage. So anyhow, even if it meant risking his life, he wanted to do this. Although the Norwegian had no sailing experience and couldn't even swim, he announced plans to make the dangerous crossing on a log raft built only with the tools available to pre-Columbian South Americans. Your mother and father will be very grieved when they hear about your death, one skeptical diplomat told Heyerdahl when hearing of his plan. Promising nothing but a trip to Peru and the South Sea Islands and back, Heyerdahl recruited a 5-man crew who built a 30 by 15-foot raft made of 9 balsa wood logs harvested from the by the Ecuadorian jungle, lashed together with hemp ropes, an open bamboo cabin with overlapping banana leaves covering the roof provided the only protection from the element. Now, with the smash of a coconut against the bow, the vessel was named Kon-Tiki, after the legendary Peruvian sun god who had vanished westward across the sea, a mythical figure who served as the mirror image to the Polynesian demigod Tiki, who had arrived from the east. On April 28, 1947, Kon-Tiki departed Peru with 6 men and a Spanish-speaking green parrot aboard. Borne along by the northeast trade winds that billowed the massive square sails bearing the image of the bearded Kon-Tiki, the raft groaned and creaked as it drifted across the vast blue desert of water. Here there is a picture of the demigod, and these are the statues that are found on the Easter Island, and it's very tall, by the way, and they excavated it and then they buried it again. Only the heads can be seen outside, however it's quite long, as you can see. Now this is an actual picture of Heyerdahl, who is posing in front of Kon-Tiki display 1990. Now the raft, although the vessel carried a radio that the crew used to provide daily observations, a rescue would have been nearly impossible given their remote location in the ocean. So you see, although the vessel they actually had a radio with them. As I told you, that one of the crew members was very good with the radios and stuff, because he worked with the army before. But it was impossible, nearly impossible, to give them their location in the ocean. So they navigated with just the sun, stars, currents, and winds as their guides. They actually wanted to travel the same way as the people, the people back then, in like 1,000 years ago, they used to travel. They didn't want to use any new gadget from the 20th century. Now, um, they paddled and steering the oars as they beat against the waves that in stormy conditions towered higher than their mast. And that is exactly what happened when the storm struck, and when it struck them really bad. They didn't know what to do because all they had were just their oars. Another actual picture of Heyerdahl on board Kon-Tiki. Now, the voyage. Each morning, the cook collected the flying fish that flopped onto the dock overnight. The seaweed and the shellfish that grew on Kon-Tiki's underside lured sardines, tuna, dolphins, and at least one unwelcome visitor. One day, when crew member Nut Hogland leaned over to wash his hands, he came face to face with a 30-foot whale shark, the world's largest fish species. Its body rose to the surface like a small mountain, he recalled in his diary after circling the vessel for an hour. The enormous sea monster thankfully found other ocean prey. Other than eating them, it found something else to eat, so they were saved. And came the storm. So on the voyage's 93rd day, Heyerdahl and his crew finally spotted palm trees on the horizon. The winds and the currents, however, kept the vessel out at sea. More than a week later, as dawn broke on August 7, they spotted a reef on the starboard side. As the fragile timber raft approached the jagged reef, the cresting waves grew and sent tons of water splashing over Kon-Tiki. The crew clung to whatever they could as the mast snapped and the swells heaved them onto the Raroya Atoll near Tahiti. As you can see in the picture, they were struck with the storm, a very big storm and a very bad storm that really they thought for a moment that they will all die. And here in the book, in your reader, you will read, please do read the whole poem. It talks about the Heyerdahl's experience of seeing the death very, very close, and at that point he thought of many things. He thought of the people who made him sign the document, and of the people who discouraged this travel. He thought about his parents as well. He thought about his family. He thought about many things, and he thought that this could be the last day of his life. But thankfully, that didn't happen. They all arrived safely, except for the parrot that had vanished during a storm out at sea. After covering 4,300 nautical miles in 101 days, an average speed of 42.5 miles per day, Heyerdahl had proved that an ancient voyage from South America to Polynesia was possible. However, he could not prove that it had actually occurred, and most scholars continue to dismiss his theory and believe that the first Polynesian settlers arrived from Southeast Asia. But the voyage was just amazing. You can read a book about it. There are many movies on it. There is one from 2012. You can watch the movie. The movie is just amazing. If you want, you can read the book. The books are amazing. There's not one book. There are many books on Kon-Tiki. So please try to find yourself a book, or if not, watch a movie. The movie on the same topic. Don't watch any other movie. I'm not talking about another movie. I want you to watch the movie. And your assignment of the day, please. Take out a colored computer paper and write down the story of raft named after the demigod Kon-Tiki. Write whatever you understood from the story. then read, also please read the poem in your reader that I'm going to share. Read it carefully and write what you understand. um, find out more about the Easter Island and the statues found on the island. You can look it up on the internet. It's a wonderful information that you can find on internet. There are many links to it. You can find it on Google. Just Google and look it up. Amazing. Choose any of the following and draw a picture of your favorite tale so far. Now, we have done many folk tales: The Battle That Tilted the Sea, Why the Sea is Salt, Jason and the Argonauts, Hiroshima Taro, and The Princess of the Sea, and one true story of Ballad of Tiki. If you like Battle That Tilted the Sea, please come up with a beautiful drawing of a giant turtle, a giant eel, sharks, and the boy Hiro. Why the Sea is Salt. You can again, you can, if you want to go with the Why the Sea is Salt, you can draw a picture of this poor man who decided to listen to the dwarf and find this little gadget which helps him to become rich. If not, I would suggest Jason and the Argonauts. Oh, it was just amazing. I loved it. It was one of my favorite books when I was a youngster back in school days. I remember I read this book. So, Jason and the Argonauts is a good choice. Rashima Taro, beautiful. You can go for a Japanese folktale, or else look for Kontiki. I have shared many real pictures of Kontiki. Just go back to the internet, Google it up, find it, and make a beautiful drawing for me. Submit it. I'll be looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time.